welcome. So you are wondering, what is EMDR? What is this fantastic new therapy technique that everybody's getting so hot about? Well, let me tell you. EMDR stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing. It's a mouthful. It's been proven to be highly effective for the treatment of trauma and PTSD, and it has other exciting applications for depression, anxiety, mental health, lots of different ways that it can be useful and effective in therapy. But what is it? Well, here's my understanding. I think of it as basically sort of like a life hack, but it's a brain hack. That within the hardware of our brain, we have this kind of processing function that gets turned on when we're having eye movements rapidly back and forth. The way I learned it, if you are familiar with the REM stage of sleep, the rapid eye movement stage of sleep, that's kind of this process happening in the wild, naturally in our brain. So let me give you some backstory. As we go throughout our day, we're getting a lot of data and information from our senses, sights, sounds, smells, body sensations. And short-term memory, making it simple, but short-term memory basically lives kind of here in the right midbrain, right parietal lobe. That's where our bodies and our emotions kind of hook up in this midbrain area. So lots and lots of short-term data, very rich, information heavy. And then when we sleep at night and we go through the rapid eye movement stage of sleep and our eyes are moving back and forth, I like to think of it as kind of a defrag process for our brain. 99% of that short-term memory, we're not going to need that. That just gets basically tossed. You're not going to need the exact physical sensation of sitting in your car on the way to work this morning. You don't need that. Anything that we are going to keep in long-term memory gets assigned a few labels, narrative, word format, and then basically gets placed in a massive library up here, our left prefrontal cortex. Anytime we want to go retrieve a memory from long-term memory, we just kind of like pull out the labels, and then our mind recreates it from there. So if you're remembering, I don't know, for example, my high school graduation, I might remember hot, happy, sweaty, music, and then my brain's like, oh yeah. It can recreate it from there. And so what's really, really interesting is if we look at the brain in an fMRI, when a person is recalling a traumatic memory, where it lights up is in here, the right parietal lobe. Informally, short-term memory, connections to body and emotions. It's here. So this kind of makes sense to me. This is why our traumatic memories, our unprocessed memories, they are data intensive. They are rich. They are vivid, they're juicy, our bodies react, our emotions react, boom, it's just all there. Long-term memory, if we're looking at it in an fMRI, kind of like a normal memory, it lights up here. So the neato thing is EMDR basically just uses this natural process of our brain, the eye movements back and forth, to trigger the brain to do this natural processing function, moving the data from here, stripping most of it, keeping some, and transferring it over here. And so it's super cool because we can actually see that in an fMRI, kind of before and after, really, really different brain activity when thinking of the same memory, pre and post EMDR. So cool, right? So EMDR literally changes the way that your brain accesses and stores your memories. Ta! How cool! So that's kind of EMDR on paper, the textbook version. This is generally what's going on. What will you actually experience in a therapy session doing EMDR? Well, you and your therapist will spend some time choosing what memory you're going to do this on. And they'll ask a series of questions to really bring it up there, asking about the sights and sounds and how does your body feel and the emotions, just getting all that up, getting it nice and activated and vivid. And then the therapist will probably have you follow their fingers back and forth while you're recalling this memory. There are a few other options. Some therapists use a little light bar where the lights go like back and forth. The idea is just stimulating that eye movement for you. Another option is to use, if for some reason the eye movements are painful or uncomfortable or they're just not working for a person, we can use sometimes audio tones, anything that stimulates the brain bilaterally, back and forth. So audio tones, or even something kinesthetic, touching. It could be tapping on the backs of a person's hands. There's even little EMDR buzzers that go like bzz, 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 bzz. They're very cool. So anything to really facilitate bilateral stimulation of the brain. So here you are, you're in your session, you're remembering this really powerful memory and following the fingers or the light bar or the whatever, back and forth. Okay, then what? What does it actually feel like for you, the person now experiencing EMDR? And the phrase that they gave us in the training was that it's a dual attention challenge. The dual attention refers to that internally your attention will be on your memory and kind of internal experiences. It might feel a bit like dreaming or daydreaming. You might experience the memory kind of playing itself out like a movie, or maybe jumping from scene to scene, or maybe jumping to even something that seems unrelated altogether. You might be having really intense emotions. You might be having physical sensations. So that's one part of the attention. The other part of the attention is that you will be conscious and aware that, yep, here you are, you're in a therapy office, you're following fingers back and forth while all this is going on in your brain. And if that feels somewhat overwhelming, yes, that's the point. That's actually part of this. One of the hypotheses for why EMDR works is that it does challenge the brain to be paying attention to something over here rather than just getting to like dwell in these juicy, awful memories. And so yes, if it feels overwhelming, yes, that's part of it. Just do your best just to kind of keep breathing, follow the fingers. You really don't have to pay as much attention to what's going on internally as you wish you might. Having had EMDR myself, I know that I've had the experience of like these fingers are really distracting. I just want to like vividly relive this awful memory. Oh gosh, and it can be a bit frustrating of like, oh wait, now the memory's shifting. Wait, no, I wanted to focus on that. So I can tell you both as a client and a clinician, that's okay. That's very normal to experience it. You probably will, but just remind yourself like, it's okay. You don't have to control what's going on. You really don't have to like try to hold on to anything or make yourself continue focusing on something. You and your therapist will pick your target memory and then go, and you don't have to keep on like forcing yourself back to the target memory. A really helpful analogy is that you and your therapist are going on a train journey through your mind. And the target memory where you start, that's your initial station. And then you and the therapist hop on the train. And as the client, your job is just to kind of like look out the window and just be watching like, whoa, what is the landscape here? What is it doing? Just be observing the internal processes through each set of eye movements, and then there'll be kind of a pause. And then the therapist will ask a check-in question like, what do you notice now? What did you notice? And then the client can kind of report back like, whoo, I was remembering this and this, or oh, right now, like I really feel it powerfully in my chest. Just reporting what you see out the window, or how you're doing. Tell us about this next train station. Okay, and then we'll do more sets of eye movements, and the train will continue going, and the memories will shift. Your brain is just doing its thing. Okay, so you really don't have to try to control what your brain is doing. You don't have to try to drive the train. If anything, I mean, your therapist isn't driving the train either, but your therapist is generally going to be familiar with the landscapes of the mind. So as they're hearing what you're reporting back, what's going on for you inside, then they will have a sense of like, okay, cool, yep, this sounds like the right track, this is good, we can continue with our journey. If they are hearing roadblocks or like really weird detours, you can trust your therapist, like they know what they're doing. They are gonna, maybe bring it back or ask some sort of questions to try to get you out of a stuck point. So they're kind of the driver, but not really. Mostly the driver is your own brain, and we're just on this train together, taking this journey to healing, guys. How exciting! Okay, so there's EMDR in a nutshell for you, roughly how it works in the brain, roughly what you'll experience as a client. And once you've kind of reached the end of your train journey of an EMDR session, how do you know you're done? For one thing, there's not so much, or ideally there's not any emotional distress left. We're not over here anymore. We're over here. Over here is like, I know that happened. And a lot of people use the word, it feels distant, or I know that it happened and it was sad, but, I accept it. Acceptance, peace, the emotional distress is gone. And a lot of the time there can be some new insights about it. The way that we think about the event, the way that we think about ourselves shifts afterward. Maybe we go from a place of really, really horrendous guilt. I should have done something else. I could have done more. But then on the other side, I did the best that I could. That's the way that it happened. That's how it is. And it's a wonderful thing. It's very exciting for me as a clinician getting to watch people take these journeys. They're all unique. They're all very special. But each one deeply satisfying. Just getting to see each person arrive at this place of, okay, that happened and now we're okay. Yeah. So, hopefully that was a brief but exciting introduction to EMDR for you. If you have any questions or comments, please post below and talk to your therapist today about if EMDR may be right for you. Thanks, guys.